Right guys, MTech Guy here. So it's nice and early this morning. We're just about to head to work, but that's okay because we're cruising in the V10 today. Now it's the end of New Year's week right now, so the road should be pretty clear because most people are still off work, so it should be a nice straight run for the V10 this morning. And we're going to be running it as it warms up in 400 horsepower mode of the EDC off, DSC on. Going to be driving it in sequential on the third setting. So I thought I'd try something a little bit different this morning. So whenever I'm looking at a car, whether it's a mate's car, whether I'm at a car show, or whether it's a car that a friend's just bought, although I'm interested in the car itself, what always fascinates me is the story behind the car. Every car's got a story, so I'm always interested on not just the details of the car and the history of the car before whoever bought it, but also the process of them acquiring the car. I always find that fascinating. Maybe I'm a little bit weird, I don't know, maybe you guys find that you're the same. So in today's video, I thought you guys might find it interesting for me to give the story behind my M5. So as I drive to work today, as I wait for the engine to warm up, I think I'll just give the story on how I came about acquiring this M5. Okay, so it all started back in 2018 over in England and with a Corvette. So I was visiting family over there in 2018. I was there for about 4 weeks. Now I had a Corvette over there. It was a black 1977 automatic 350 V8 5.7 litre, the old C3 Corvette Stingray, even though it's not actually technically a Stingray in 1977. There's me just geeking out a bit on the old Corvettes. I've owned quite a few Corvettes in my younger years. Anyway, I had this Corvette over in the UK. Now my plan was to bring it back over to New Zealand, and there was problems with the fuel tank. I had a new one to go in the vehicle, so I was umming and ahhing what to do, whether I should bring it back, but the cost of shipping, plus because I wasn't emigrating like the first time round when I came here and I brought a car with me which was also a Corvette, I'd have to pay taxes on it too, so the figures just weren't really stacking up, even though the cars are worth a little bit more over here, the Chevy Corvettes. So anyway, I decided what I'd do is I'll put the new fuel tank in it, get it all sorted, see if I could get it sold during my time over there. I was only there for a short amount of weeks, and then I transfer the money over here and then find something cool to buy in New Zealand. So I got stuck in, got the fuel tank in, the car was looking good, got it all polished up, it was all sorted, it was running nice. So I advertised it on eBay and put it on for a fair price, like a starting price. Just wanted to see what the market would pay for it. I had a lot of interest in the vehicle, quite a few people ringing up, a lot of interest. And what I did in the end, because I had so much interest, I did a bit of a walk around video and put it up. Now that was one of the first videos I ever made, so if you guys are interested at all, what I'll do is I'll put the video up now and you can have a look around that Corvette. I know it's not a BMW, but it might interest some of you guys, so I'll stick that video up now. 1977 Chevrolet Corvette. It's recently had new UJs, new shocks all round, differential, bearings and seals, trailing arms fully rebuilt, 4 new calipers, discs and pads all round. Calipers have been painted red. New steering wheel, carpets, leather seats, door cards in the interior, very tidy. Factory T-top covers and straps. Very tidy engine bay. Has been painted in the factory blue colour. Chrome water pump. Electronic ignition coil and cap. same as from factory. New master cylinder. Chrome headlight actuator covers. All the aircon equipment is in place. Good oil pressure. All the gauges work. Anyway, so that was that car. I did end up getting it sold, so after the first 2 weeks I was there, put it up for sale. I think it was a 10-day auction, got it sold. The guy came to pick it up, very nice guy, got the money, transferred that back to New Zealand, and then headed back home shortly afterwards. So when I got here, I was sort of thinking about, well, what do I want, you know? I was driving my E46 coupe at the time, which I love. That was my daily driver. Had my X5, and I'd only just sold an E46 wagon touring 325i. So, and at this time I was kind of thinking about starting a YouTube channel as well, and at the time I was thinking maybe getting some sort of project car, you know, because it would generate a lot of content. So there was a mtech E30, I think it was 1987, obviously manual, and it was an M325i, because it was New Zealand new, so they were called an M325i, and it was in good shape, you know, the bones of it was good. It wanted a few little jobs here and there, and it was black as well, best colour. So I was looking at this car, thinking, yeah, that'll make a great project car to generate some YouTube content on. So I looked at buying this car, but it was almost like the guy didn't want to sell it. So this went on for a few weeks. I was just trying to get the view of the car. I had the money ready to go if it was any good, but the guy was just messing me around, and in the end I just thought, stuff this, I can't be bothered with this now. And so I looked around a bit further, and I saw an M6 come up. There's a black one again, and a really high Ks, and the V10s had always fascinated me at the time. I'd not owned one before, so the more I looked at this car, the more I liked it. And it had relatively high Ks. This is 5 years ago, and it had over 200,000 kilometres on it. I think the guy daily drove it. It was up on the North Island in New Zealand. It looked like reasonable condition. It looked like he'd looked after it properly. It had some work done on the SMG gearbox. It had a new clutch, this, that and the other thing, you know, just the usual bits and pieces for a car that kind of age and mileage. And I kept looking at this car, and it was really cheap at the time, and I thought, yeah, this would be cool. And there was I did a bit of research on the V10s, and everything online at the time was just like, no, these are horrendously unreliable, rod bearing problems, Vanos problems. It was just like, if you were looking to buy one and you were doing some research, you would put anybody off. And it wasn't until I got a V10 myself I started putting out content that actually most of what's online isn't true, and I was the only person putting anything like that out at the time, and there weren't that many DIY videos at the time either. So anyhow, I was looking at this car, and although I really like big rear-wheel drive front-engine coupes, obviously I'd owned a lot of Corvettes in the past, had my E46 coupe at the time, I really like the coupes. I just couldn't get over the front and rear end of the M6. Not that it looks ugly, not that it looks bad, it just looks slightly off to me. And and then the Ks, I couldn't really get past the Ks as well. So I thought, I don't know, but I'd really, the idea of a V10 had really grown on me by that time. So, and then I guess as I'm getting a bit older, I start looking at the, you know, the 4-doors, the M5s. And I'd always been into my big coupes in the past, but like I say, I guess it's just an age thing. And more practical. I've got 2 young kids now. And, you know, back in the day, I'd always liked the Cozzies and the Lotus Carltons and stuff like that. You know, these big sedans that would just add blistering performance. Or maybe not a Sierra Cosworth, but still a fast car for the time, that's for sure. So I started looking around for an M5. Now, as it happens, there was a local used car dealer in town here. They had 5 of them in, and one of them was much cheaper than the other 3. So, oh, that's interesting, and it wasn't a bad price. It was this car, by the way. So I headed down there, went for a look. Now, this car wasn't here, but the other 3 were. So I got talking to this young salesman, very nice guy, and he said, oh, that's down at our lockup. And the story behind it was a car that they'd sold to a customer 2 years previous. They'd actually imported it into New Zealand. Now, in New Zealand, the majority of cars are Japanese imports, and a lot of used car dealers do bring them over themselves and then sell them on. So this owner, he'd driven it for about 2 years. As far as I'm aware, he was having issues with it. It wasn't quite running right. So I think he'd done Vanos solenoids and this and that, and diagnosed it. He must have been getting sick of it. So what he did, he ended up trading it back to this dealer that he bought it from, the one I'm looking at right now. And yeah, if I remember rightly, the salesman said he traded it against a Holden Commodore. That's a big V8 Aussie muscle car for any of you overseas viewers. I'm pretty sure they sold them as Chevys over in the US and Vauxhall VXRs in the UK. Cool cars, but very different car to an M5, that's for sure, to a BMW. So I was like, oh yeah, that's interesting. Now, so they had it in their workshop. They hadn't really started looking at what was wrong with it, but they were umming and ahhing whether just to wholesale the car to a wholesaler or to fix the car up and sell it themselves. So they were sort of digging deeper to find out what was on with it, but I had this price on it and I was interested. So it was down at their lockup at the time, so the guy was like, well, have you ever driven an M5? And I'm like, well, not really, but I've driven big rear-wheel drive, big engine rear-wheel drive coupes before, Corvettes and whatnot. He's like, well, let's take one for a drive. So one of the 3 that they had on the lot there, there's a white one, we took that out, and geez, it really impressed me. I was really taken aback with the performance. Probably one of the fastest cars I've ever been in, and straight away I was like, yeah, I've got to get myself one of these. So we got back and I said, right, I want to see this other car. And he's like, well, it's in our lockup, you can put a deposit on it, we'll fix it up, it'll all be running right, and then you can then the car will be yours. And I'm like, well, I want to look at the car first, you know. So we headed down to the workshop, and it was parked out the back there in the yard, kind of looking a bit sorry for itself. And I'm looking around it, and it looked alright. The bones of it were actually good. I could see it was a solid car, a nice car. It just wanted a little bit of tidying up here and there. And obviously they needed to fix the running problem with it. I couldn't even start it because the battery was flat. But at that time it was like $100 deposit. That would secure the car for myself. They'd fix it up, they'd get it running right. Then I could look at the car once it was all sorted. The deposit was refundable if I didn't want to go ahead with the purchase. So I thought, yeah, that'll suit me. So this was in December time, and I left it with them and said, yeah, let's go for it. And now at that time, they were a bit slow in getting into the car because they had several customers who had purchased cars coming in from Japan, put deposits on them, and there was 2 car transporters due to come over from Japan just before Christmas, bearing in mind this is early December, and they needed to get these cars compliant, do pre-service inspections on them and servicing to get them ready for sale, which is a reasonable amount of work for several amount of cars. So towards the end of December, they're like, look, we're not even going to be able to get your car started yet, looking to repair it, so are you happy to wait? I was like, yeah, whatever, I'm not in a massive rush. And this went on and on for a bit, and then they started doing some work on it and whatnot, and it was like February, and I got a call, and he's like, right, we've got the sump off, we've identified that the problem is the high pressure Vanos hose is leaking, which I knew was a common problem on these early M5s. So I say, yeah, cool. And I was quite thrilled that I was going to get that replaced. And the guy was almost, the salesman I was speaking to was almost reluctant to tell me this, but he's like, look, we've got the oil pan off now, we're busy with this work, this is going to get it sorted. But the guy who was working on it, the technician who was working on it in their workshop, actually owned an E60 M5 himself, so he was proper enthusiast. And he suggested to the sales team that, look, while we've got the oil pan off and the rod bearings are staring us in the face, we should really get them done. And so this salesman's telling me, this is, look, it's going to take longer, we're going to get the parts in. And I was just like, yeah, nah, I'm happy with that, just take as long as you need and get it sorted. So it's like, yeah, sweet, got on with it. And then it wasn't until March, so they had the car for just about 4 months since I put a deposit on. So I was waiting around for a while, but I was really pleased to get the rod bearings done and the vanos hose done right before I bought it. And then at least the best thing is I knew the life of them rod bearings as well, so moving forward, me being the first owner, I'd let the car warm up properly. I know it hadn't been trashed, I knew the history of them. And during the whole pre-sales service they did on it, they did 2 new front tyres, they did a throttle actuator, rear window rubber, a suspension bush, or an ignition coil. So they did a proper job. They obviously, it was all fully groomed and everything as well. And yeah, so I was really pleased with this. So anyway, I remember getting a phone call, I think it was a Saturday afternoon, this is in March, and he's just like, oh, your car's ready and it doesn't need compliance, and it was already in New Zealand, had already been here for 2 years, waft regoed, ready to go. Sweet. So I shot down there, had a good look around the car, make sure I was happy with it. I remember taking it for a run, went up the motorway when the oil was up to temperature, and I remember just opening it up and absolutely loving the car. It blew me away, the performance, and I was just laughing, and the way the gearbox was changing like so fast, I was just like, yeah, I'm happy with this. So took it back. It was a very fair price that it was up for at the time that I put a deposit on, the price at the time, and I'd done all this work to it, still the same price. So we did the deal, I was very happy with it. And then yeah, I drove the car for the rest of that day, and that's where we're at today. Started the YouTube channel, started pumping out some DIY videos for you guys, and yeah, that's where we got with that. Right, so something extra I'd really like to do with the channel. Now, if there's any of you guys out there based in New Zealand, based here on the South Island, if you've got a M5, an M6, a V10, even if you've got some really interesting BMW, I'd really be keen to meet up. I'm going to maybe do a walk around of the video, and I'd really love to find out the story behind your vehicle. So if you are interested, shoot me an email and we'll get something fixed up. But anyhow, if you found the video interesting, don't forget to give it a like, and make sure you go and check out the rest of my YouTube channel for more BMW E60 M5 content. Consider subscribing if that's your cup of tea. I'm MTech Guy. Thanks a lot for watching.